Welcome back to AM Sports Cover 4. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, guys. This is our new channel covering college football, and I'm sure you guys will enjoy it very much, so make sure you become a subscriber. But, Jay, I wanted you and I to get together and talk about something that I think is very interesting. We did a poll the other day, and we talked about which team would possibly fall off, and we talked about Florida State, Michigan, Washington, and Alabama. So I wanted you and I to talk quickly about Alabama and their ceiling for 2024. Now, Alabama was not the winner of the poll. It was actually Washington, but Alabama did come in second. With the exit of legendary head coach Nick Saban, you have Kalen Deboer coming in. Alabama, since Kalen Deboer was announced, has lost, if I'm not mistaken, 29 players to the transfer portal, some of which we being Florida State were the lucky recipients. Now, we did receive Terrence Ferguson. We got Sean Murphy. Who else did we get? Malik Benson. And there's some other players that we ended up getting from Alabama. Players that were not necessarily proven or got a lot of playing time, but certainly very talented players. As far as the overall talent level in Alabama, Jay, I think Alabama is still flush with talent. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
But it did negatively affect them in the 2024 cycle with losing their five-star quarterback, Justin Sain. He actually went to Alabama, signed with Ohio State instead of signing with Alabama. Well, let me back up. Signed with Alabama, must have been released from his letter of intent, and then signed with Ohio State. So, Jay, Kalen Deboer is coming in. It's going to be a brand new offense. We know Kevin Steele retired, so it's going to be a brand new defense. He's bringing in a brand new offensive staff. He did keep some staff members from the old regime, most notably the strength and conditioning coach. I think he brought in South Alabama's head coach to become the defensive coordinator. So a lot of changes there, Jay. Now, you think about what Kalen Deboer had in place last year from a QB perspective, and now you're moving to Jalen Milroe.
Big difference.
That's a huge difference. And so I'm curious to see how this is going to actually work out and how he's going to actually implement his plan. Honestly, and this is just my personal opinion, you have to take the risk if you're Kalen Deboer. But in all reality, more than likely the guy that's succeeding a legend will fail because the expectations are so high. And when you think about Alabama, the expectations are sky high because what Nick Saban was able to accomplish there. The other factor, Jay, that I think people are not necessarily thinking about is NIL. From my understanding, NIL at Alabama is not up to snuff. It's not on par with some of your other major programs. And a lot of the players were going to play at Alabama for a discount because they were playing for Nick Saban. And now that they don't have that NIL in place, I start to wonder exactly how recruiting will go with Alabama moving forward. I don't know how much of a capable recruiter Kalen Deboer is. He's not from the South. You're going to primarily be recruiting in the South. I don't know everybody on his staff currently and how many of them have ties to the South, but that's going to be very important. So it's my belief that Alabama will take a step back in 2024. Now, Alabama was what for the regular season? 11-1, if I'm not mistaken, with their only loss being to Texas. They should have lost to Auburn, and they struggled at times. And I'm just wondering, with this new implementation of the offense, Jalen Milroe really looks more like a linebacker than a quarterback. Jay, I personally think they're going to struggle next year to some extent. I have them at best going 10-2, but I could see them going 9-3 or even 8-4. And I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on that because of how flush they are with talent. But I still think there's going to be a challenge there. Jay, what's your thoughts on the Alabama Crimson Tide and what they might look like for 2024?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, one thing about the offense, though, Deboer, he brought his offensive coordinator. So one thing about their offense versus Washington's offense, hopefully they have a better offensive line because in the final game, championship game, Penix didn't have a chance. back there. His offensive line was getting obliterated by Michigan. So from what I've seen, Alabama has a much better offensive line than Washington had. So he has that. I think they got a new center because that center was having some horrible snaps in that game as well. That's what cost them with the last play with Jalen Milroe. So that might help Jalen Milroe adjust to that offense because he's going to have more time, and we'll see how he adjusts as a quarterback in that role there. They did keep their defensive line head coach as well as their running backs coach from Nick Saban's camp. So they still have those guys there. And to your point, I don't know how his recruiting is gonna impact the South because he was in Washington. He's an Indiana guy before that, so a lot of his coaches came from his tree when he was at Indiana back in 2019.
Yeah.
So he has like 5 coaches with Indiana ties. So it's gonna be interesting how they work that to recruit the South. Like Nick Saban, just his name alone, he's gonna get a lot of 5-star recruits. And speaking of 5-star recruits, I was surprised they were able to keep that one 5-star plus receiver. I thought he was going to Auburn because he had decommitted after the Saban left. He's like, I'm gone pretty much. But they talked him in the stand. So, I mean, that's a win for Alabama with that guy there. Looking at their schedule, it starts off pretty tolerable for them. So it's something good for them where Jalen can really get into the groove with things. They start out with Western Kentucky, then USF, and then Wisconsin. And then they go get a bye. Then they go down then they play Georgia. That's going where you really gonna see where they're at, early in the season, and then Vandy, South Carolina, Tennessee. We'll see what Tennessee looks like. They lost their quarterback and some other players as well. Missouri, I'm not too big on Missouri. I don't really believe. I think they're smoke and mirror. LSU is always a tough game for them. We don't know what Oklahoma's going to look like. Then always Auburn. So I mean, I could see a 2-loss. I don't think they're going to lose more than 3 games tops, honestly. Just because of what they have, the foundation they have there. The thing that may hurt them throughout the year, depending on how these new recruits they have right now, with losing all those recruits they had, although those recruits were backups, you still need depth. You need people to push you in practice, as well as if that guy goes down, you need someone to get in there. That's somewhere close to that talent. And I don't think all their 3rd stringers or 4th stringers that went elsewhere, I don't think they're just completely scrubs. Like some people say, well, they're just all scrubs. Like, no, you sit behind. I mean, for instance, like back in the day with Miami and their running backs, when you had Edgerrin James, you had Clemens Portis, you had Frank Gore. All that, and you're mad because I'm sitting the bench. I'm 3rd string. I'm not mad behind being 3rd string behind something like that, being 3rd string behind like a Deion Sanders and others over there like that. So I don't know how good those guys are, but they're gonna have a chance to play now.
Let's because all those guys weren't. Roydell Williams was a starter. Malik Benson was a starter. So all those guys weren't backup. Sean Murphy was actually a loss for those guys, and I saw that their fan base was actually interested. Yeah, you said they were 2nd stringers. That's what you literally just said.
A lot of them were. A lot of 29 guys.
Some of them were. I'm just saying that not all of them were. You inferred that all of them were. And so even if they were backups, some of them were 2nd stringers. And to your point, though, there's a lot of talent there, and a lot of those guys were supposed to take prominent roles moving into next year. That's what you would normally have in a high functioning program. You would have guys that are 2nd stringers, 3rd stringers, and then they step into those starting roles when the starters move on to either the NFL or exhaust all of their eligibility. So we'll see what ends up happening with the Alabama Crimson Tide. You say you got them going what?
At max 2 losses.
I got them going 10. I got them going 10-2. You just said at max they will lose 3 games, but all good. I got to go.
I was like, nah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Georgia, LSU.
We'll see. You guys tell us what you think in the comment section. What is going to happen with the Alabama Crimson Tide? Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is AM Sports Cover 4, and we are out.